Brian, just as people file in the room, you're not Randy, but thanks for hopping in and filling this gap. But before we get started, my crazy question, is it too early for pumpkins? And you are muted.
It is. It is not too early for pumpkins. It is.
But
It's.
you're up
You know, I mean, I'm just thankful that they haven't put out the Christmas stuff already. You know, I mean, give me a break.
You
It's.
clearly have not been to Hobby Lobby.
I will tell you that this morning, my wife and I actually went to the pet store, and you would not believe the number of pet Halloween costumes there were there. I mean, it was just oppressive.
You'll have to get them for your bees. Get little costumes for your bees.
Well, you know, what are you going to do?
All right. Okay. So we got that question. Brian says it is pumpkin season, so he's ready to go. Now he is up in the Tennessee Vols territory, and they're kind of pumpkin-esque. So we'll blame that. So good afternoon and welcome to Insightful Accountants Future Forward Summit. My name is Gary DeHart, and I am the publisher of Insightful Accountant and the host of the Future Forward Summit. Thank you for joining us for session 2, K2's Artificial Intelligence for Accounting and Financial Professionals. Our speaker is Brian Tankersley, who is pinch hitting for Randy Johnston. I'll have him introduce himself in just a second after I cover the housekeeping items. Like with all sessions that are CPE, this is a CPE eligible session. Like with all sessions, you have to be here 50 minutes, 50 minutes, and you must answer at least 3 of the polling questions. We are going to have a question that says, do you want to receive the CPE certificate? If you want to receive it, tell us yes. And that way we know to send you one if you qualify, if you meet these other 2 conditions. If you have any questions, we just ask you to drop them down into the Q&A or into the chat. Brian's got a lot of information to cover, so he's not going to be monitoring that like Kelly and Sept did in our last session. But if you do have a question, be real specific in that question. Don't just say, what did you mean? Tell them what you're talking about. This is, we are recording, and we will be posting this to our YouTube channel. We will also send you the link to the YouTube channel as a follow-up, along with the slide deck itself. And you will also receive a copy, like I said, a copy of the deck will be included. I'll drop a copy of the deck also into the chat once Brian takes over. And then, and I certainly do want to say thank you to our sponsor. Brian, I think we do have a slide for the sponsor, if you wouldn't mind advancing that over to Landy. We certainly want to say thank you to our sponsor, Landy Insurance. Landy is a proud family-owned and operated business for over 70 years. And the best compliment that you can give them is to refer a colleague. They can help you with your privacy breach and cybercrime coverage, business office liability, workers' comp, and other professional liability coverages. And so I do have a poll question I want to throw up for them, and that is, everybody needs insurance, right? So you're interested in learning more about cyber risk and ways to protect your data. That is the poll. So again, are you interested in learning more about cyber risk and ways to protect your data? I think Landy has a white paper on cyber risk and data protection that they'll send you. We'll just leave this open for a couple of seconds. I do have a second slide as well once we get through this one, and then we'll get it turned over to Brian. I'll go ahead and close this out in about 3 more seconds. If you need the CPE, go ahead and participate. So this can be one of your 3 minimum. So 3, 2, and 1, closing out now. And then I do have a second poll here, and this is, I guess this is more of the sales pitch, right? If you're interested in a free analysis and quote for your E&O, your errors and omissions insurance policy, just check yes. If not, you can put no or not right now. And we'll leave this open for about 10 seconds, and then we will get it turned over to Brian. And we'll touch on this a little bit later. Brian is the proud owner. You're not really an owner of bees. I guess you're owner of the boxes. So Brian raises or farms. What do? You call it? You raise bees, or do you farm honey?
I wrangle bees. I have about 19 beehives right now, And you can learn more about that at tnvalleybees.com. Pre-COVID, I traveled about 30 weeks a year, and post-COVID, I had to find something to do with myself, and so I have that, and it's a good thing, you know. So it's fun, and I want to give you all an opportunity to have some of the honey that is the bounty that my tenants have done here. So if you'll again, if you're interested in it, I'm going to give away a few jars, let's say 3 jars, and we'll pick those out at a point in the future from the folks that are attending at that point.
That's awesome. All right. Well, how about Randy, or not Randy? You're Brian still. I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to go dark. I'll be here running the polls as those pop up.
Super. Okay. Thank you so much, Gary, for the opportunity. I appreciate you and the Insightful Accountant, as well as our friends at Landy Insurance for helping us out here with this. My name is Brian Tankersley. I've worked with K2's since 2005. I am Randy's principal understudy, and unfortunately, Randy had some stuff come through, and unfortunately was not able to be here today. You know, as we do these webinars, one of the challenges with travel is that hotel internet is so bad that sometimes it's unusable, and so we always try to make sure we have a backup. If you have questions, or if there's anything I can do to help you, don't hesitate to reach out. That number on the slide is my real number and my real office, so don't hesitate to help out. I also see here that I've got a question from Jonathan Bello. Wanted to read vendor statements, extract date, invoice number, balance. I'm going to encourage Jonathan. I'm going to encourage you to go out and have a look at something like Dex Prepare, or you know, there's another one that will go down at line level. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. The AI has actually gotten the data extraction piece actually remarkably good. Okay, super. So let's start out by talking a little bit about AI. And computer science really defines this as the study of intelligence agents. It's a device that perceives its environment and takes actions that maximize the chance of it successfully achieving its goals. We really try to do this associated with things like cognitive functions that people associate with human minds, like learning and problem solving. You know, if you just think about how effective and how much different the experience is today with the voice chat tools like Alexa and Siri and others like that, compared to how they were at their launch 10 or so years ago, it's quite different. Okay, so I want you to understand that when we're thinking about this, this AI, you know, I want to distinguish here that you know, one of the things we have to remember here is that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic in the minds of humans. Okay, so I want you to understand here that this AI we've had this for a long time, and it's done things for us for a long time, and we didn't even know it was happening in the background. What's changed is with ChatGPT now, it has created something that is a little bit shiny, a little bit more visible, that we have that you can see out here. Now, another thing we have is machine learning. Okay, and this is a subset of AI, and this lets programs learn from past data without programming explicitly. Okay, and so the thing that I would example of this that I might show you here is going to be, let's go out to photos.google.com. So here's my Google Photos. What we're going to do now is just come up here and search, and let's look at my people. And so as we look at these, you can see there's a thing here where it's asking me, are these the same or different people? Okay, so this is my 21-year-old niece now, but those are pictures of her as a kid, and so now that's the same, and so I'm going to group those together. And as a result, and here's my son as a 6-year-old and as a 21-year-old here. And you can see all of those coming through. And so what this has done is, based on me identifying these people in 1 or 2 photos, it has actually gone through and extracted all the ones that were the same person. Okay, and so that's actually a big machine learning application. And so now we can actually search in here. So let's say that I wanted to search for my dog Theo. Okay, and here's Theo, and you can see that all these pictures again of Theo over the years showing up in here. Okay, so anyway, so we think about machine learning. this doesn't necessarily have explicit programming in here. Okay, so we do say to it that we do give it some feedback sometimes, but there's no explicit programming to identify the things in here. And so that's one of the reasons why a lot of the cloud companies out there now, a lot of software companies want to put their data in the cloud, because they want to be able to do machine learning against it. Because if you're thinking about your average small business, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out if there's a bill from AT&T or Verizon, it's probably going to go to some kind of telephone expense. Okay, so as we're thinking about how this goes through, machine learning will go through and develop layers and solve things like that. Now, as we move forward, AI is the overall category. Machine learning then is kind of a subset that learns from past data without explicit programming. We then have neural networks that mimic the human brain through a series of algorithms. And then deep learning is an advanced neural network with more than 3 layers of automation. So there's some differences between AI and ML. Okay, and so again, AI will have some explicit may have programming, may not. Machine learning, though, does not have the explicit programming. The goal of AI is to make computer systems solve complex problems, whereas the goal of machine learning is to let machines learn from the data so that they can give accurate output. We also have again, the scope is to build intelligence, for AI is to build intelligent systems to do tasks as well as a human. On machine learning, we teach machines with data to perform a particular task and give an accurate result. I was actually thinking about it here for a second. The holy grail is getting a AI to read a vendor statement PDF, extract blah, blah, blah from Jonathan earlier, where you wanted to extract data from a vendor statement. Look at Plate IQ. Okay, so look at that as an option there. But anyway, as we think about this, though, extracting the detailed data out of invoices and receipts and other things like that is one of the major things that we can actually do. So before we started today, one of the things that I actually did was I went out to Zoho Expense. And I scanned a receipt, okay? And so it was unfortunately in a different Zoho account, so I logged back into that Zoho account. But, when we look at this data extraction that we're talking about is something that is a largely solved problem. I actually scanned this right before we started and dumped it into here. And now if we jump into my receipts, what you will see in my expenses is that here is a receipt from Lowe's Home Improvement for $52.89 for 2 quarts of 10W30 oil and some weather stripping. Okay, and you can see that it's figured out that it's Lowe's Home Improvement, September 20, 2023, $52.89. Okay, so what I want you to understand here is that the ability to extract that information is here. And it actually does remarkably well. Okay, I find that this almost never makes mistakes at pulling the basic information out of here. Now it is asking me what category that needs to be assigned to, and I do need to assign it to a job and a category and other things like that. But I want you to see that this stuff that you're seeing in here. Here's another one where I got my cell phone fixed the other day, and what I want you to see is that with this particular thing that we have did it. I mean, again, it's 100% on getting the right vendor, the right date, and the right amount. Okay. Now I'm showing that to you here because this is something that is ready for prime time now. Okay. A few years ago, we had tools that would extract information, and it just wasn't super reliable. And so this stuff is again pretty amazingly reliable. And Murph says initial automatic bank rules before an individual clarifies or alters the rules are example of machine learning. Okay, so that's another example where Intuit can look at all the Verizon and all the AT&T bills that are received by vendors, and they can actually go through and classify those automatically to some kind of telecom expense. Now, in AI, we have Alphabet uses AI to power their self-driving car. And if you've not ridden one of those, it's rather harrowing to go 40 miles an hour down the Las Vegas Strip in a car where nobody is touching the wheel. AI also can power their Amazon uses AI to power the Alexa digital assistant and product recommendations and other things like that. Microsoft uses it for all kinds of things. They actually have a forthcoming product that's going to be an extra $30 a month called Office 365 Copilot that will do generative AI. So you can tell it to write a letter about this, or you can tell it to summarize data that's in your Office 365 cloud. That is expected to be released later this year. Apple does biometric ID. Facebook uses AI to serve up ads to you, and of course we have ChatGPT that has been this gathered a lot of folks and has done all kinds of different things. It does all kinds of different things. I've used ChatGPT from everything from write a social media post to having it go out and create a 2-paragraph description of a topic, or going in and having it actually go in and create code to extract data using the API that exists for QuickBooks Online. So I've actually had it write Python code for me. So it will do a pretty amazing set of things in here. But you have to be very careful. I was actually at an event in New York in the first quarter. They were going through and using ChatGPT, and one of the downsides to ChatGPT 3.5, the older version, and AI is that when it runs out of things to say, it just makes things up. Okay, so I actually asked it to run a bio on me. It ran a bio, and then and in that bio, the first one said that I was on the faculty at Belmont University. Second one said I was on the faculty at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. Third one said I was on the faculty of Lipscomb University. I've never set foot on any of those 3 campuses. Okay, so it just makes things up. At least it's not as bad as what it did for our friend Doug Sleeter, though. We actually went through and ran a bio on Doug Sleeter, and it said he was dead. Okay, so I want you to understand here that there is this hallucination that actually happens with AI. So you have to check it a lot more carefully than you would a staff person as you're using it, because this hallucination is a very real thing and really does happen. Now, let's go in and talk a little bit now about the different kinds of AI. The first kind are narrow-focused AI. And so when I was a kid, I actually played competitive chess. Okay, and so I actually had a computer that my parents bought out of the Sears catalog that would play chess against me, and it beat me on a regular basis as a kid. And so this computer again had a very narrow focused set of programming in it. And so this, again, AI has been around since the 50s. This narrow AI is designed to do things in a savant-like fashion. You can think about Deep Blue that beat Garry Kasparov, the reigning world chess champion, about 25 years ago. Or we can think about the IBM Watson that beat the Jeopardy champions, or the Google tool that actually beat the world Go champion. This narrow AI, though, is not conscious, sentient, or driven by emotion. It is a savant, like the Dustin Hoffman character in the movie Rain Man. And so it operates in a certain predetermined range, and it is amazing at that one thing. But it does not do the rest of the stuff. So if you started feeding pictures into the AI that's programmed to play chess against Garry Kasparov, or the world Go champion, algorithm, it's not going to know what to do with that. Okay, and so I want you to catch here that that this narrow AI is probably the easiest to do right now. Okay, and so again, this extracting data from invoices and statements and things like that is something we can do here. And by the way, that AI actually exists in both Excel and Adobe Acrobat to do a serviceable job of extracting data out of PDFs into Excel. It is not great, but it is certainly better than it was 10, 15 years ago. Now, the next thing we have is general or strong artificial intelligence. And this is where this artificial general intelligence can do tasks as well as a human being can. A great example of that might be in the Spike Jonze movie called Her. There's actually a character that is kind of an Alexa type character that the male lead actually falls in love with. And so when we're thinking about this artificial general intelligence, this is designed to. This would be something that where we could put a set of files in there and say, okay, prepare this tax return. All right, and so AGI is expected to be able to reason, solve problems, make judgments, plan, learn, integrate prior knowledge and decision making, and be innovative, imaginative, and creative. Now, here's the bad news. This artificial general intelligence does not exist at this point. And if we go look at the Gartner stuff on AI, they suggest that it'll be 10 plus years before this is available. Now, the last one in here is the one you probably think of, and the thing that scares us all the most. And this is the AI similar to the dystopian super AI that we had in the Terminator movies, Skynet, if you may have heard about it. This is where we have artificial super intelligence that surpasses human intelligence, from creative to general wisdom to problem solving, and it will let the machines do just about everything in here that you could imagine. Okay, now this is what people are worried about in here. There are a lot of huge technological hurdles in here, and it's believed that it'll be 30 plus years before this happens. Now, as we think about this, there is a concept here of the technological singularity, and this is the thing. Again, this is what the movie makers and the writers that wrote about Skynet in the Terminator series of movies. In that, they actually imagined that time in the future when this technological growth changed civilization altogether. Okay, where the humans were subservient to the machines and vice versa. And so this, again, when this technology becomes self-aware, self-learning, self-improving, and autonomous, it's capable of existing and improving with no human interaction. Again, this singularity, the consequences and the existence of this is debated. We don't know exactly how this is going to play out, just like anything else in the future. We don't know what's going to happen. It could solve unsolvable problems. There are also a lot of other things happening in computing. One of the more interesting things I'm finding is quantum computing that will solve a lot of optimization problems, and better than the current existing stuff will at this point. And so when you start factoring all this in, it's just a very, very wonderful time to be alive. Right now, let's now go in and look at the other three major subsets of AI. And so actually, Gary, maybe this is a good time to do the first polling question that we have. So which of the following is not a component of artificial intelligence? Machine learning, natural language processing, neural networks, or JavaScript programming? Okay. So again, we'll give you, I guess Gary's monitoring this on his side. And he'll go through and get this taken care of. But you do need to respond to this. You don't have to get it right. You just have to respond in order to get credit for this. And so hopefully that'll get you there.
And let's hold that open for about 5 more seconds, and then I will share those results for you.
Splendid.
All right, 3, 2, and 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Okay, and you can see JavaScript programming is the one that is not a component of artificial intelligence. Okay, even though you can ask ChatGPT to do that, just the programming itself is a task that's being solved by humans. Now, as we look at machine learning, this is a branch of AI that can learn from data, identify patterns, and make decisions with minimal human intervention. Okay, and so if you think about the Starlink internet that Elon Musk has put up, that has a few thousand different satellites in it, that's a great example of a communications network that's designed to gather data from all those. I think in the long run, the goal is to gather data from all those Tesla cars out there, so that they can make adjustments to the streets that are working and not working in real time, and other things like this. Again, the self-driving Google car, self-driving other cars, that's machine learning. The online recommendations from Amazon and Netflix, that's machine learning. Fraud detection, again, that's another machine learning. So this is, again, a combined effort of human knowledge and machine calculations. Okay, so the humans are teaching machines what to know. We also have artificial neural networks. Okay, and so this is a framework for some different algorithms to work together and process complex data inputs. So these will learn tasks by considering examples generally without being programmed with any task-specific rules. So it will start out by looking at cats, by analyzing images that have been manually labeled as cat or no cat, and then use the results to identify cats in other images. They do that without any prior knowledge about cats, features like furs, tails, whiskers, cat-like faces, or other things like that in here. It can then also learn from dogs by processing many images of dogs and animals. So it learns the characteristics and go from there. So now if we look at this dog, which is very clearly a dog, you can see that once it feeds through this neural network and these layers that we have, it identifies that this is 95% going to be a dog or 5% going to be a cat. Now, these neural networks are used in a lot of different things. So if you've ever used the website Zillow, that will go and look at home prices in your area. Obviously, it's going to have some updates to be made because with interest rates going up, the ability of people to buy high-end homes has gone down. But as we look at the neural network, it will look at, again, in the neural network that Zillow has, it will look at the square footage, location, comparable sales or comps, macroeconomic variables. It'll also do other things and then give an output for what they think a particular home is worth. The model gets better as the homes actually sell. They can see what the actual results are from courthouse retrieval and other services that pick up on all the sales. And then they can get better and better and better. Okay, now I will tell you that my sister-in-law actually worked for Zillow for some time in Seattle, and it's actually pretty amazing some of the things they do. Now, deep learning is think of this as tricked out machine learning. Okay, so this trains a computer to perform human-like tasks that recognize speech, identify images, or make predictions. And instead of organizing the data to run through those equations, it sets up the parameters and trains the computer to learn on its own by recognizing patterns with many layers of processing. So in contrast to machine learning, the deep learning is done almost entirely by the computer. The computer is self-taught and learns with little to no human interaction. One of the strategies that's used quite often in this is called a generative adversarial network, where we take two AI chatbots that simulate whatever they're doing, and one will be kind of the arbiter of whether or not to classify these things. The other one will be the one learning and creating the layers. And so this, again, as we're thinking about this now, this deep learning will go through and analyze all of those things. Okay, just like once I identified which of those people was me in those pictures, it went through all my other photos and extracted all the pictures and tagged all those pictures in Google Photos with things that identified that it was me. and it did that without me having to give it much feedback. I gave it a little bit of feedback, but not much. Okay, so we'll skip over this. Now, another thing to look at are some current AI trends. So I'm going to go to the consumer world a little bit. One of the things that I do, I take my role as Randy's understudy very seriously. So we've actually gone together to the Consumer Electronics Show. I've gone with him since 2011, and and we walk the entire show floor. And so we find all kinds of interesting things. This is a device that I have. You can see that this is basically a Raspberry Pi computer, and there is an algorithm on GitHub that will actually go through and count the number of bees coming and going, and then how many of them actually have pollen on them as they're coming in. And so this technology uses AI to count the bees coming and going and identify them against that white background. Another one that is a new one that I've picked up that some of you may have is called a Bird Buddy. And so this is a smart bird feeder. Think of it like a Ring doorbell put inside a bird feeder, and it will actually go through and identify the different birds in your yard. Okay, so here are the cardinals in my lawn. So notice I have a female one and a male. And again, it sends these to me to my cell phone. Okay, and it's a little more than I care to have, but it's still pretty amazing. It's kind of cool to see all the different birds. In fact, we picked up 2 new bird species today that we'd never seen before. So it's kind of again, looking at this, but it uses the AI to identify the species that are in the photos. Okay. Now, as we look at AI, the Gartner Hype Cycle for AI discusses a lot of different things in here. You can again think about these. As you're going through and looking at these now, you can see that we have chatbots and semantic search and all these things on this Gartner Hype Cycle. But you'll notice in both of these that the I guess the artificial general intelligence is always 10 plus years away. Okay, so again, we've got a lot of different things. There's a lot of stuff happening. In fact, in this one, there are quite a few things in here that are actually very, very close to coming to fruition. But again, this artificial general intelligence is more than 10 years when we look at the 2022 hype cycle for AI. So what can you do with this? Okay, and before we jump into what we can do with this, Gary, why don't you do our second poll for us? Okay. So how is machine learning different from general AI? A, machine learning is not a type of AI. B, machine learning involves training systems to improve their performance. C, machine learning involves programming explicit rules. Or D, machine learning is a less advanced form of AI. Okay, so let's see how you do on this. Okay.
I will keep this open for about 5 or 6 more seconds. All right, we'll wrap it up in 3. If you need that CPE, go ahead and participate. 3, 2, and 1.
Okay, super. And it looks like your best answer here is actually C. Machine learning does not involve explicit programming. Okay, so that's the one there. And I probably didn't highlight that as much as I should earlier. But again, so C is the so again, looking at that, C is not correct. Machine learning again involves training to improve their performance. So B is going to be your best answer there. Anyway, so that gets you through. That kind of gets us through here. Now, there are some things that AI can do today. Okay, you can do back office routine tasks like the receipt that you saw that I ran through. You also have you can also use tools like Dex Prepare that will extract invoice data and other things. Bill.com does that. Corpay One does that. For cognitive insight, you can actually go through and look at data and interpret the meaning. I actually had a friend that worked for Tableau, the big business intelligence company, and he showed me 10 years ago an application that would actually go in and write up what's going on in in Major League Baseball based on the box scores that were presented. Okay, so as we're thinking about this now. This cognitive insight, again, pulling out the trends out of this. And there's actually a great example that Microsoft has released in the Copilot for Microsoft Excel that is forthcoming in the Office 365 Copilot that will actually go through and identify key trends and help you with analysis. We can also work with customers and staff and do all manner of things in here. Now, the question is, are the robots going to steal our job? Okay, and I will tell you that I've been in the accounting profession since the early '90s. I actually started my first job at one of the big accounting firms 31 years ago last month. And one of the things I would say about it here is that the work I do today is very different than the work I did then. The work I did then involved a lot of footing, ticking, and tying, and a lot of paper, a lot of adding machine time and things like that. What's changing here is that we're moving from a world where we have to do the actual grunt work like that, or if we're thinking about water, we're taking buckets of water and getting it from one place to another. I have an off-the-grid bee yard, and I have to take water up to the bee yard so that the bees have enough water to survive. because there's just not a great water source around there, and there's no running water out in the middle of this farm where I have bees. And so this concept here is that we're really going to all become more data plumbers than we are going to continue having to do all the grunt work. Okay. So we'll, again, three waves. There's the algorithm wave, the augmentation wave, and then the autonomy wave. Okay, and so in the first one, in the algorithmic wave, this is where we can do, this is where we can go through and analyze things like, Murph mentioned in the chat earlier about identifying the motor oil in my receipt and populating it to automotive expense, because that's how the IRS would define it. And so as we're thinking about this now, that kind of stuff is happening today and can happen today. Okay. Again, we've got a lot of sectors that are going to be affected. The entry level stuff. Again, once this stuff gets better, it is significantly better. It can be, again, significantly better than it was in the past. The next one is the augmentation wave, and this is where this is going to go through and give you some dynamic interaction for support and decision making. And so the machines can automate them, can automate a lot of these different tasks for us. An example of this might be you might have a generative AI go through and actually write a summary letter to your client about a fact pattern that you have, or you might have it create an engagement letter for your engagement, or other things like that. Okay, so there's still quite a bit of stuff that can affect us here. And then the last one is the autonomous phase. Okay, and so this is automation of physical labor, manual dexterity, and problem solving in the real world. And so AI and robotics can automate the routine tasks involving labor or manual dexterity. I think about my niece that's 21 that actually has a part-time job at a distribution center for a sporting goods company. And, if you think about it, there are things like golf balls that are going to be relatively easy for computers to handle. But then you get into clothing and kayaks and things like that. And those are going to be a lot harder for computers, again, robots to handle. So as we go through here, this autonomous wave is going to expand and do things in here. The experts in here, this is a PwC expert. They believe that there is a significant percentage of jobs that are at risk in waves 1 and 2 that are associated with the financial services industry. That having been said, one of the things that we have to think about here too is that the bad guys are going to use this, and the auditors are going to use this, and the IRS is going to use this as well, again, to go through and extract and figure out who needs to be targeted for audits or other things like this. Obviously, the more rote, simpler tasks are more at risk. If you have folks that are in that situation, the thing we need to do is we need to upgrade them to effectively review the work that's done by AI, as opposed to doing the data entry themselves. Okay, and don't worry, the stuff's actually remarkably easy to work with, and again, you're just going through checking things in here. I think honestly, a lot of the work that's been sent offshore is going to get automated by these tools a lot sooner than a lot of the traditional things that we think about are going to be in here. In fact, we see all kinds of things coming up. So some of the AI tools that have gained popularity include ChatGPT. There are actually plugins for this, so you can have ChatGPT ingest data from a PDF file, like Publication 17 or the Master Tax Guide, and then ask it questions. You can have DALL-E 2, and they've announced DALL-E 3. That's a art generator. Midjourney is another art generator. Bing's ChatGPT based chat. Google Bard. We also have coming up Microsoft 365 Copilot and Windows Copilot, as well as Photoshop's generative AI. The thing you have to know about this is that you are going to need to create these things called prompts. And so the prompts are how you ask the AI to do what needs to be done. So, for example, my son and I have a weekly battle on him taking the garbage cans to the street. And so, our garbage morning is Monday. They come about 7 in the morning. And so on Sunday night, I quite often will ask him, Baker, I was looking outside and I didn't see the garbage cans out there. What's your plan? Okay. And that's my prompt to him to, okay, son, it's time for you to go take the garbage cans to the street. The second time I come in there, I say, Baker, it's time to take the garbage cans to the street. And the third time I go in there, I take his phone and his laptop away. Okay. But I mention all of this to you because this prompt creation, just like I have 3 different prompts for Baker that have increasing amounts of urgency that disrupt what he's doing. Figuring out how to ask these questions is a real challenge. So I've actually got some examples in here. You can see that you can see that again with prompting. You may want to have very detailed requests and other pieces like this. And so here's an example of ChatGPT that I ran. You're an IT expert, have to make a 100-minute CPE presentation to explain generative AI and how it will be used in the accounting profession. Create an outline and slides to perform the presentation. And it actually went through and created this and actually came up with topics to go on the slides. Now, the thing you have to know about the generative AI is that it uses statistical analysis of content to predict what the next word is, and then iteratively goes through and figures out what the most likely words are in response to a particular question or other things. Okay, so it when we're thinking about this iterative AI, it's never going to come up with stuff that's super catchy or that's super inventive. It's going to always be, it's always going to be pulp fiction content in quantity that is maybe not quite, maybe a little bit below average. Okay, so think of it like think of it like USA Today. If I compare the writing that takes place in a USA Today or a Wall Street Journal or a New York Times, to each other, the Journal and the Times certainly have better writers than we do in USA Today. So that's in here. A lot of different approaches. Now, the downside to all of this AI is the privacy. And so I want you to really think about and understand what the privacy implications are. When the gentleman asked earlier to have AI read a vendor statement PDF, extract the date, invoice number, and the balance to CSV or Excel, ChatGPT will do that. The problem is ChatGPT then incorporates that private data that you have into its programming, and then we have a potential breach of confidential client information, which is problematic. Okay, so it's possible to do this, but again, we have to think about the privacy and see if that doesn't create problems for us. And by the way, one of the challenges with all of this AI is that they're finding more and more leakage of data. So your data, as an example, I'm told by some of the folks that were in the beta test for the Office 365 Copilot that they sometimes had data leak out that came from some of the other Office 365 tenants. Well, that's not good. Okay, and unfortunately, a lot of these AIs do have the ability to leak out some of that stuff, and so there is what's being discovered. And so we can again go through here, but again, you can see we have this is honey labels we have. We have AI generated art in here. Now I want you to catch the AI generated art. If you look at the faces up close, they look like something out of The Walking Dead. So they look like the face huggers or whatever. They're a little bit different, a little bit creepy. This prompt is create a painting of accountants in a room in the style of Van Gogh. Here is the Salvador Dali version of the same thing. You may remember him. With that, though, we're getting pretty close out of time, so I'm going to ask Gary to go ahead and do our third polling question, because to give you an hour of CPE, we do have to do 3 polling questions. So let's go ahead and do that one now, if you don't mind. Okay, how can AI improve the efficiency of financial operations? A, by redesigning company branding. B, by automatically detecting and correcting transaction errors. C, by training employees on new software. Or D, by developing new sales strategies. Okay, so pick out one of these, and then we'll go from there. And Gary, do you have the 3 names for me of the folks that that I'm going to be sending honey to?
Oh, I do not, but I will, I'll do that after. All
Okay, super, super. All
right.
right.
We'll go ahead and close this out in about 3 more seconds. So if you want to participate, go ahead. 3, 2, and 1.
Okay, and the obvious answer there is going to be automatically detecting and correcting transaction errors. So, you know, the thing I love about using Zoho Expense is that I can take a picture of any receipt I have, and it will reliably extract the vendor, the date, and the amount into Zoho Expense so that I don't have to. And so that's something that is ready for prime time and available in most of the expense management tools. I would suggest to you that if you're not using one of those, you are working too hard. Okay. Anyway. All right. So with that now, I've got a couple more things here to take you through. Now, I want you to see very quickly, I'm going to take this. This will take us about 2 minutes. I want you to see, though, that one of the things we have to worry about today is people doing what's called deep fakes. And this is where we use AI to go out and impersonate someone. This is Binance Coin is one of the major cryptocurrencies. They actually had their chief communication officer was thanked for attending a meeting that he never attended. And they actually went through and generated AI-based photos and video that's remarkably realistic. And created deep fakes of these things. Okay, you may remember before, I actually went through and did this, but what happens in here is you create, just like you have the computer AI stuff that will actually go in and motion capture for different kinds of characters like dinosaurs in Jurassic Park or Gollum in the Lord of the Rings series. These AIs will actually take the input. They'll then go in and create latent faces and then reconstruct this. There actually been a number of cases where these deep fakes have been used to actually take face A and then reconstruct it as face B in an artificial window. This is being used now as kind of a 2.0 of the again of the financial compromises that are happening. Inside a lot of companies where they get folks to create these fake things. So I actually created in here, I used a tool called Deep Swap, and I traded out my face and Randy's face for the Blues Brothers. I actually fed the Blues Brothers in. I fed in pictures of Randy and me, and you can see that I'm Jake with my pointy nose that's different from Belushi's. And you can see Randy's over there on the other side. And again, as we jump into here, what you can see is that those things have actually gone through and it's created some fake stuff in here. So we have to be very careful here that, again, we don't let these things happen. As an example, there's on YouTube a deep fake of Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau that it actually is talking about the truck driver protesters. Now, remember, he's left-leaning, so I'm picking on him. There's also in here some fake photos that started showing up in the media of former President Trump resisting arrest in front of a courthouse before he actually had his first indictment. So I guess I just show all of this to you because I want you to understand that seeing isn't believing the way it was. And again, if they can do things like this, they can do just about anything. I also mentioned to you that in PowerPoint, it actually will do transcription in real time, and it will translate it into a variety of languages. So you can see that this is outputting this stuff in English in here. What I'm actually going to do now is modify the subtitle settings, and we're going to change out the language that's in here, and we're going to change the subtitle language now to be Russian. Okay, so here is Russian now. And you can see it'll start over and then it will start coming out in the Cyrillic alphabet. I actually had somebody that attended one of the conferences I spoke at a few years ago, and this person actually spoke Bulgarian. Bulgarian is one of the languages that it will do, and she said it actually did a remarkably good job of imparting what I was saying. She said it struggled with the idioms and the as you might expect it to, but she said it was remarkably good. So I just want you to be aware here, these business email compromises are serious. The ability of people to generate fake photos and other things is also serious. And so I want you to watch out very carefully for this going forward. Okay. Anyway. Okay. All right, Gary, I think that gets us to 50 minutes here. I see your address in here, Gary. I would ask any of you that have been picked as winners by Gary for the drawing to make sure you correspond with him via email or via chat to get your address in here. I do want to get that honey shipped out as soon as I can. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just reach out to them separately.
Super. Okay. Well, folks, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here. If I can help you again, I'm just Brian at K2E.com. And I hope everybody has a great fall. And turn it back over to Gary.
All right. And we do want to throw this up. If you do need that CPE certificate, go ahead and say yes. And we will get that out to you. It's probably going to be a couple of days. Normally, we can turn it around in about 24 hours. But with the volume that we've got, we should have AI doing this for us. We will probably take us about 2 to 3 days. So if you don't receive if you're expecting, don't receive the certificate within 3 days, just shoot us a note at info@insightfulaccountant.com. And again, you will receive a follow-up email that has the link to our YouTube channel, which is where this recording will sit. And then it will also have a copy of this of Brian's slide deck attached to it as well. Well, it's going to point you to a box folder. So with that said, Brian, thank you so much. Looking forward to get some Tennessee Valley honey from, and what was the email address or the web address? Was it Valley Bee?
So if you want to see about my bee adventures, you can actually go out to Instagram. And if you go out to Instagram, you can go to TN Valley Bees. Okay. And in here, you can actually see my misadventure yesterday, where I was working a swarm and actually got bees on my head. Okay, so that's me yesterday. Anyway,
how do you get bees off your head?
You shake your head. Okay, and the good news is it's good protective equipment. Now, what you don't see here is that even though that's a somewhat flimsy veil and so forth, I do have a ball cap underneath there that's pretty thick. So anyway, but like I said, I appreciate the opportunity. Every day I get to do this instead of working in a cubicle for the man is a win. So thank you all for helping me out in that regard. If I can help you again, I'm Brian at K2E.com.
Absolutely. And Brian, hope you feel better. I know you said you're starting to get a little under the weather. Get well, my friend, and we will see you very soon. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Hopefully we will see you all in about 30 minutes at our next session, which is Turnkey Office Solutions. So see you very soon. Thank you.